Okay, Stan, I think we're live on Facebook. So, God, dear, that's hard work. Facebook and Zoom make it difficult for us, but we're here finally. So, Stan, so tonight we're going to be talking about, if you just joined us live on Facebook, happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday to everyone, indeed.
Hopefully your morning run went really well. We're just in the mood for making your life a little bit easier and to talk about how to optimize your long distance running. With sprint training of all things. So we're very excited to welcome back Stan Madiri, who's our elite high performance running coach at Perfect Balance. So we're, so Stan, how's it been going?
It's been going all right, Steve. You know, the weather's been perfect, at least for today. So that's been brilliant, yes. And indeed, he's talking sprint training, the role of sprint training in long distance running. There's one legendary coach, you know, Lydiard, you know, he's considered the father, one of the fathers of long distance running. And he's known, you know, for a statement, you know, a very provocative statement at the time. And he said, if you want to be a great distance runner, you need to train like a sprinter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that passed over many people and many coaches' behaviors, because of the coaching traditions of the time. You know, this was way back, you know, early in the 70s and the early 80s when he was talking like that, because endurance running was basically built around endurance, which was distance. And so to hear, you know, a man with so much success, coaching success with athletes performing, you know, superb times, talk about sprinting and that long distance runners should train like sprinters. That was something for many people that, you know, checked their coaching ethos and coaching programs.
Yeah.
So yes, that's what we like to delve a little bit into and see what exactly the wise old head meant and what does it mean for long distance really.
Yeah. Great, good. Terry, I'd like to welcome you back. Thank you very much for joining us again on Facebook Live. And hopefully you've got some comments and some questions about long distance running. I'm guessing you're a long distance runner, but you might be a sprinter as well. Because I know we had a chat last week about some of the performance elements that you found quite interesting about the chat. But if there is anyone else out there with questions as well as Terry, then it'd be great to hear back from you with regards to any questions you might have for Stan or myself on the role of sprint training with long distance running. So Stan, it's a dichotomy, isn't it? Because when we say the best form of training for runners is actually to get out and run specifically with the distance they're going to be training at, isn't it? So that's something that's pretty unanimous amongst all coaches, but this kind of breaks the mold a little bit, doesn't it?
Yes, it does, but I think the trend has been changing color somewhat over the years because of the level of performances that the elite athletes, the elite long distance runners are putting up. Yeah. And with everyone in full view of these Olympic times and world championship times and all the many races, the live races that are shown, it is clear that those long distance runners must be doing something in their training rather other than just going for long runs and long distance runs. Because if you look at some of their times, if they're on the track, their times really, average times, they would suggest that there is a huge content of speed within, you know, their running nutrition, if I may use the imagery there. There's a lot of speed ingredients within their running nutrition because they wouldn't be able to make some of those times that they do without any speed training. So what it has done is it has opened, it brought about that awareness, but the gap lies in, I think the quandary with most long distance runners is, how do I get to run that fast as well? Not run as fast as Mo Farah, run as fast as Helga Blasrese or Rhodesia, not necessarily, but how do I run as an individual that little bit faster, that little bit quicker, so that I'm running at the top end of my own optimal running? It's the how bit. That's where the gap is, Steve.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's interesting, isn't it? Because if you look at most other sports, apart from running, you have this the quite a reductionist view of coaching, don't you? So if you're playing tennis, for example, you'll break down the tennis serve into each of the different parts, and then you'll teach it as a whole at the end of it. But running is a very difficult thing to teach as a individual parts, because it's a cyclical movement, isn't it? So you start and you finish, and there's this bit that goes on in between, which is a repetitive cycle of what's going on before. So as Franz Bosch says, there's no start and there's no end to the running cycle. So it makes it a very difficult thing to analyze, but also from a training perspective makes it super difficult to work out what the optimal strategy is to be able to train long distance runners, doesn't it? So it makes it very difficult.
Yeah, it is difficult. Yeah, but if we look within the cyclical movements, we can see patterns within them that are common. And within those patterns, that's where the reductions could be made. As an example, running within that cyclical movement involves the leg being up in the air, which is the air time for the limb, and then the ground time when the limb is making contact with the ground. So within that cycle, those two phases there can be looked at, and then we can start working out how can we improve each one of those two important components of that cycle. How do I reduce the time that the leg is in the air? How do I reduce my air time? And then look at what components within that cycle, within the air time, what components are there that are consistent with everybody, and then look at how we can reduce that. And there are ways of doing that.
Yeah.
And then we look at the ground also, what's going on when the foot makes contact with the ground. What are the attributes, what are the elements there that we can we can harness so that there is an optimal effect once the foot has touched the ground, i.e., how can we put in enough force into the track to get the desired response, which is an output of speed. Yeah. So yes, those are trainable. Yes, we may not stop it and freeze it, but we can still train it within the cycle of each one of those two phases.
Yeah, brilliant. So if you're listening live on Facebook right now, we'd love to hear back from you, because we want to know what type of, if you're a long distance runner in particular, so anything over kind of 10K, should we say? So anything over 10K, we want to know, are you using sprint training as part of your strategy to help improve your speed over long distances? So we'd really love to know already, but Stan's got some great answers with regards to some questions that people have been asking, but we'd love to know if you're already doing that and how you're implementing that. And then we'll hear from Stan with regards to how he would implement that in a running program, so to get the most out of your running program. But yeah, Stan, so surely there's different running mechanics though for a sprinter versus a long distance runner, because when you're sprinting, your foot tends to be much more on the forefoot and the toe box area of the shoe. So do the mechanics matter when it comes to sprint training versus long distance running? Well, if you're using sprint training to help improve your long distance running, or is it purely just the energy system that you're trying to train?
No, I think we must separate the issues here. There is the metabolic efficiency. That is no doubt the big one for the long distance runner.
Yeah.
They need their metabolic, zone. They need their metabolic bank to be full in terms of cardiovascular endurance, and the efficiency and the efficacy of that whole system. That is no doubt, that's the foundation for long distance running. However, there is a distinct impact for having mechanical efficiency on top of that, or alongside metabolic efficiency. It's the mechanical efficiency we're talking about. That's where the speed gains are made. When the athlete starts working on their mechanics. Now, yes, the mechanics would be different. Mechanics are simply a response to a movement task. So within the running phase itself, depending on the challenge of the movement task, the mechanics of the body are going to be different to try and attain what is effective. The sprinter has got the mechanics that they have because of the start, the acceleration, the top speed, or the transition, the top speed, and when they started decelerating within that 100 meters or 400 meters distances. So
it's a function, you're saying it's a function of the activity that they're pursuing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The function, the activity that they're pursuing would in itself almost impact on what mechanics. It would determine the form that is required for that distance. The long distance runner may not use those mechanics, sprinting mechanics of a 100-meter or 200-meter runner, because they will not have enough resources to last the distance. However, there is room for efficiency, for mechanical efficiency and development of the appropriate mechanics to be able to run at the necessary pace for a particular, for specific running distances.
Yeah.
Where running economy can be expressed. To attain running economy, we really are talking about mechanical efficiency over there.
Stan, just define running economy, because some people out there might not have heard about it. And if you haven't, we'd love to hear back from you and to hear about some of the terms that you use to describe running efficiency. But Stan, what would you be using running economy to describe when you're attributing it to the running cycle?
Yeah, we probably what we are trying to conjure there with the economy is that the expense, the energy expenditure relative to the task. There is less energy expenditure relative to the amount of work that has got to be done.
Yeah.
So there is little energy that is being spent to achieve a higher output. That is what running economy is. So how much energy I am using to achieve how much distance.
Right.
And ideally, you want to be spending less energy to achieve a lot of distance. That allows you to go far. It allows you to go far quicker.
So it's because we can't create energy, can we? So technically that's there'd be a little bit of a flaw in the way that that's been described there. But what you're saying is that the way that we apply the energy, so we apply a force on the ground or energy consumption during the energy cycles in terms of like carbohydrate metabolism or protein metabolism, but that's going to equate to the amount of energy coming out, and we want to make sure we don't lose the energy when we're using it. So everything that's going into you nutritionally, everything that's come out of you physically is being put into the ground to be able to push your momentum forwards, right? So that's I think that's what you're referring to, isn't it? So it's conservation of energy.
Yeah.
Perfect. Good. Yeah. So yeah, because conservation of energy is very important, isn't it, when it comes to running? Because you obviously don't want to be losing energy, which you can lose in terms of your energy efficiency.
Yeah, and what will cause a lot of loss of that energy is the level of your mechanics, the quality of your running mechanics. If there is not coordination, ample and optimal coordination, it will mean a lot of that energy consumption is being spent on activities of movement that are not necessarily contributing to the forward movement that you like, the desired movement that you like.
So one of the things that we see in the clinical side is, I mean, people love or they hate orthotics, but it doesn't really matter about the orthotics because it's the principle behind it that's the interesting thing. So if you're delivering, if I was going to punch you, Stan,
yeah,
if I was going to whack you on, the best way of me punching you is to make sure my body weight goes through my fist into you. Okay?
yeah,
The same thing when we're running, isn't it? So we want to be able to punch the ground so that our hip mechanics drives the foot straight down into the ground, and the ground reaction is going to come straight up back through the limb. If we're driving it down and our limb is not at an optimal angle, so not linear, vertical, it means that we're going to be losing energy and it's not going to be efficient, or we're going to have to use up more energy to be able to maintain the velocity and the angular momentum of that foot as it hits the ground. So what you're describing there is perfect in terms of what we see in the clinical scenario as well, where people they're just not conserving energy very well because their gait is not quite as optimal as it could be. Their ground reaction isn't delivered straight into the ground, so they're not conserving energy. So I guess that's another thing. When we're at Lee Valley, for example, Stan, and we're working with the sprinters, that's definitely something that I notice a lot. That I think long distance runners could benefit from is that the biomechanical aspect of ground reaction. So I think sprinters deliver it far better than most runners because it has to be as optimal as possible for them to travel.
Yeah, the reason being there's not enough distance in a sprint race for you to be making so many mistakes or to be dissipating a lot of force or losing a lot of energy. There's not enough distance. There's not enough free play, if I may use the term, for you to do that. But why the long distance runners seem to be able to get away with it is because the awareness is less because of the amount of distance at which the running is being expressed. Nonetheless, the loss is taking place. The loss of energy is taking place. The dissipation of force is taking place. It's just that they've got a lot of distance where this is happening. The sprinters notice quickly because of the short distance that something is wrong in my running. I've lost something, I've not delivered something because of this distance. Whereas the long distance runners, that is something that is not exactly sharp within their awareness because of the long distance that they're traveling. And this is where we're talking about here is, why we're coming on here is that if only the if only the long distance runner would have the same awareness and appreciation for energy and force and direct their efforts towards mechanical efficiency, there would be a whole lot of improvement within their running economy. And therefore they'll be able to run further, they'll be able to run further, faster, in their races. Because one, they'll be able to produce the force that they require. Two, whatever force it is that they are able to produce, they'll be able to control and transfer it. It's within the control and the transfer of the force, that's where the differences is. That's where the mileage is.
That's like a toddler learning to drive their car out in the driveway, and then putting a toddler in a Ferrari. You're going to get problems, right? So as soon as they put their foot down, they're not used to the speed, so they get this sudden loss of energy, right? So it's the same thing. So that's why it's better to be getting out and putting the miles in with the running, because you've got to get used to that. So it's no good a long distance runner going to do 1 or 2 sessions of sprint training and expecting that to translate straight into their long distance program. But it's got to be a gradual cumulative effect as well. Terry's just Terry Vaughan on the Facebook chat has just posed a very interesting question about increasing the he says the evidence of, I don't know who the researcher is, so he's going to let me know, 6 to 16 weeks longer of a strength program improves the running economy by 2 to 8%. So I think that's an interesting stat. I'd love to know who the researcher is and what kind of strength program they did, because I guess it really depends on the type of strength program and the in terms of the volume of exercise, plus also the start point. Because I think if you're increasing and you're at top end already, then you're probably going to find that you're not going to improve that much. That's quite a big gain, 6 to 8%. If you're at the top end, if you're at the lower end, then 6 to 8% of just increasing your strength training, I think would probably be probably an underestimation. Really, I think you could make massive gains of strength in your running velocity and endurance based on a good strength program as well. So that would be interesting. Terry's going to let us know about the name of the researcher, which I think would be really interesting to look at the study.
Yeah, but my view on that one, Terry, Steve, is that yes, it is possible to increase, your running economy because you have increased the strength. But what exactly has happened there is that the percentage of loss is still the same. The percentages of loss, if you are losing, you are dissipating energy to 20% of energy with your current strength. And then you add a bit more strength with whatever strength and conditioning that you have done. The percentage loss will still be there as long as that mechanical deficiency, or rather mechanical inefficiency, is in place, has not been attended to. That's what I would take. That's what my take there would be. And you have it even with the sprinters. There was a notion in the past that make them stronger, they will be faster. Granted, yes, they will be faster, but the loss that is coming from their mechanical inefficiency remains the same. It's only that they've got a lot more strength, but they'll still be making the losses on whatever gains that they've got, whatever strength and power gains that they've acquired, the percentage losses will still be there. Yes, their times will be improving, but the percentage losses will still be the same.
Yeah, very interesting. So what you're saying is that it's all very well doing all these different types of training, but firstly work on efficiency as a baseline, and then once you're efficient and the energy output is equating to forward propulsion when you're running, then start to add more into the engine, rather than trying to add more into the engine and be losing a lot out the back end.
Yeah, what I would even dare to suggest there is they probably would achieve the same time by simply improving their efficiency without adding their strength levels, increasing their strength reserves.
Yeah. Do you think running biomechanics improve in your experience with strength training?
Sorry, Steve, you said?
Do you think running biomechanics improve with strength training?
Yes, it would. Yes, they would. Because it's all about, even with strength training, if the mechanics during the act of strength training, the exercises of strength training, then the strength gains are also compromised because the mechanics themselves are poor. Take, for instance, maybe they are doing a squat. If the mechanics, the movement patterns of that squat are off, the gains from the load are also compromised.
Yeah.
So mechanics really sits at both the stimulation of the muscles as well as the expression of the muscles. Its mechanical efficiency is key in both scenarios.
Yeah, no, very interesting. Very interesting. So, Stan, what kind of advice would you give to people who are long distance runners that are looking to introduce sprint training into their long distance training?
I think
whereabouts in the cycle would they mix it in as a starting point?
I say in every session.
Every session, okay.
Every session. Why every session, Stan? Because you are working with mechanics.
The neuromechanics.
Neuromechanics, yes. So there's not a particular space or time everywhere down the season where I'm going to do it. No, in every session, I want to be looking at tidying up my mechanics. Whether it's in the warm-up where I'm doing that, whether it's during the run where I'm doing that, but it is something that I must have within my awareness that my mechanics are an important part of my run. Whether it's on a recovery run, whether it's on an easy short run, or it's on the long run. Mechanics are key with that. just having that sprinter's attitude in terms of thinking about movement efficiency and proficiency would help just that little bit much and lower those times down, without doing much else, but just being aware and raising one's consciousness regarding that would be in itself would be key. And then of course, yes, I know long distance runners think about running drills as something that you do in your warm-up. It's as if it's something that you do before you start this serious business. I would suggest make running drills, which are skill drills. I like calling them skill drills. Make them an important part of that session, whether it's in the warm-up or you have a particular day when you separate them and concentrate on it. Make it part of the journey. Make it part of the skill set that you require. And then of course you have all the other. I know long distance runners would have, for their speed work, they'll have interval training. They'll have fat leg training. Others do heels to, and call that, all that comes under speed work. That's fine. All that is good. But what we're suggesting on important here is that let there be a high content of mechanical efficiency, not just running intervals because it's a shorter distance, but breaking it down because you are focusing on your mechanics whilst running the shorter distances.
Yeah, great. So Terry's, okay, big one from Terry, hold on. Terry said, research shows concurrent strength and endurance training can increase endurance performance in athletes to a greater extent than endurance training alone. Hickson et al., 1988, great study. Resistance and or explosive training has been shown to lead to significant improvements in running economy, which is what you were saying, Stan. That's Cheng et al., 2012, 1999-2012. So that's quite lots of other research around that area as well. Thanks very much, Terry. That's fantastic. But I think, it's always nice to have the evidence base behind some of this stuff, because there's lots of stuff on the internet that's just loads more stuff.
Yeah.
So anyone that wants to know more about running studies, then Terry's your man. So that's fantastic. Thanks a lot, Terry. But yeah, I think that's a really important point you made there, Stan, that, about the running economy and the endurance elements as well. I think that's fantastic. So where do you look at, in terms of neuromechanics, how does that translate into long distance running? Because the actual biomechanics are somewhat different in terms of the foot strike and the biomechanics, but the neuromechanics are very similar, I imagine, in terms of the ground reaction and everything else coming back. But how do you incorporate that into someone's program?
There are three components there, Steve, that I would consider from a neuromechanical standpoint. There, it's basically one, it's the individual, the athlete themselves. Where are they within their journey? As in, what is their training age, if you like? Yeah. What is their training age now?
Training age in terms of maturity, in terms of what their what their cadence over lifetime has been, for example.
Training age as and for how long have they been training? How much mileage have they got in their body? How much running experience have they got in their body? That in itself will be the starting point. If they're beginner or they're in the middle part of the journey, or they're experienced, they're into the performance zone, that in itself will play a role in determining, where you want to peg the neuromechanical intervention within their running program. The next thing I would consider there is the task. What is their movement task? What event are they doing? Is it the middle distance, as in the 1500 going up to the 3000, or is it from the 5 to 10K? Is it the half marathon? Is it the marathon? Or is it even the ultra marathon? So the task there is, is critical in deciding how to incorporate the neuromechanical intervention, because the running task itself calls for a different response from the body to attain efficiency there. So the body will be responding to that distance of a marathon. So how do we establish what is the appropriate neuromechanical intervention?
Yeah.
That would be the one. And the third consideration there is the surface, the environment in which this athlete is running this, is making this movement task. What environment are they doing it on? Are they doing it on the track? Are they doing it on the grass in the countryside? Are they doing it on the road? Because all those environments call for different neuromechanical interventions.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I'd also probably throw in there injury history as well, because I think if they've had kind of disc injuries and nerve type injuries and like primary muscle injuries, I think that's going to have a dramatic effect in terms of their efficiency over time as well. So that's definitely something that they want to take care of. But getting those things sorted out as quickly as possible will reduce the impact of those longer term on your ability to be able to increase your endurance and increase your performance as well from a neuromechanical standpoint as well. So Stan, that's really interesting. So is there anything else you can add to anyone listening to this that might be thinking about adding sprint training into their long distance runners to become even better at their long distances?
Yeah, what I would say there is embrace speed.
Yeah.
There is, if the body as a machine is really built on repetition, it likes continuity. It likes continuity and repetition. And so embrace the fact that to be able to run faster, if you want your times to come down, you will need to add speed into your training. Mileage alone will not bring those times down. Yes, they will come down because you're getting stronger. But guess what? Those times could even come down further down if we just increase, one, the efficiency within our running by focusing on speed itself as an ingredient. We may get strong, but strength does not make us, strength and speed are different. Yeah. Strength, speed, endurance are different components. And if we are not investing in any one of those three, we are going to fall short in any one of those three that we're not investing in. So speed has got to come in and play its part, in as much as endurance plays its part, and as much as strength must come in and play its part. Endurance on its own will not get us any quicker. It will not make us any stronger per se. It will not make us any faster. So each one of those three components has got to be addressed within the various exercises, within the various training regimes that you would have cut out across the period of the season, however you want to periodize the season.
Yeah, no, very interesting. If people are coming back from injury, Stan, how do you think they can get back into it? Because introducing sprint training or like attributes of sprint training into their program when they're coming back from injury is probably not the most sensible thing to do, is it?
Well, it is what component of sprint training really? I think that's where I would focus on.
Okay.
Yeah, what component of sprint training? Yes, they're not going to come in and go gung ho. Yeah. Because no, that's risking, risking them, to re-injure themselves.
The reason I ask Dan is because people listening might think that actually sprint training, short distance, and I'm only going to be doing it for a short amount of time. Whereas if I go out and run a long distance, that's going to be more stress on my body. But the reason I ask that is because there's, like you said, there's probably a bit of a misconception that although you're doing it for a short period of time, the intensity is probably going to be quite high. Whereas this might be a longer period of time, but the intensity is going to be more steady, and your body's probably more used to that. So, yeah. So sorry, I interrupted you there, Stan.
Yeah. Now, what I was going to focus on for someone that is coming from injury and you are doing sprint training with them is really the neuromechanical component at a low level. So you are gradually and in minute doses introducing patterns of movement that the body would have forgotten due to injury, or the body is not confident of going through because of injury. So it's going through reawakening the parts of the tissue and neuromuscular tissue that would have been injured, and whatever compensations would have taken place. So it's getting back into there to realign and re-energize and bring about, make alive again any muscular tissues that would have been affected by that injury. And to do that, I have to mimic the precision of the running movement and do that, with an appropriate load on it. Appropriate load, that is, they can do those movements with, from walking as a drill, for instance, a walking drill. It could just be a marching drill, but they are beginning to let the foot move within the pattern, within the appropriate cycle that they're doing without inviting and impacting heavy load on the limb, on the previously injured limb. We, however, are already inviting the nerves and every other, body tissue that is relevant within that movement cycle. We are teaching, reintroducing that movement pattern within a coordinated manner amongst the muscle groups that are responsible for that particular movement, which is different if they went out for a run, a long run, because the body during injury, it would have developed some compensatory behaviors or compensatory pathways. Once they go straight onto a run, guess what? They are reinforcing those compensatory pathways. And therefore, it takes a while. It takes a while. The gains might be minimal. The gains might be temporal because they're just coating re-injury in the process once they start putting more load on it.
Yeah, no, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Good. So Stan, do you think many long distance runners are actually using sprint training as we speak as part of their program? Or do you think it's one of those hidden things that they're not aware of is going to improve their long distance runs?
I think amongst the high performance, sprint and speed training is definitely something that they've caught onto. And that's why they are at that end of the scale. But it's between our average runners and our beginner runners, where speed and sprint training, using sprint methods is still something that it has not caught on so much as putting it into the training plan. But yes, slowly, I think the awareness is getting up there. But like I said at the start of the discussion, it's the how to do it. That's where a number of long distance runners still have a few issues with.
Yeah, that's great. So if you've just joined us on Facebook, you've just heard it from Stan the man. That sprint training for runners is a really important part of the long distance running training. The main thing that holds people back, I think, like Stan said, is probably the awareness of what to do and how to go about executing on that. So they don't look silly if they're long distance running and they're starting to do their sprint training. But there's some very easy drills that they can do, aren't there, Stan, that we'd be more than happy to show people. So if you'd like to see those, we'd love to hear back from you. So just leave your details in the box below and we can get those sent to you or invite you along to a special sprint training session for runners, so for long distance runners. So if you'd love to come along to that, Terry, I can see your fingers itching away right now. If you'd love to come along to that, Terry, and just sample some of Stan's wares, then just put your details in the box below and we'll cycle back and then hook you up with some sprint training for long distance runners as well, and show you some of the drills, because I think that'd be really exciting to get you guys seeing some of the drills and get you doing it properly from the very start.
Yeah.
So Stan, is there any advice that you can give to people? Oh, we've got one person would like to. It's ill, so we'll get you back. We'll message you actually later. So if you want to just hold the line till the end of the session, and we'll send you a message, get you involved with that. We'd love to help you out with that. So I forgot what I was going to say now. So sorry. What was I going to say, Stan? Read my mind.
Oh dear, it's something. I think it was a follow-up on what you were saying before, which was it before? Oh my goodness, was this after Terry?
No, I think it was. I think I'm probably going to wrap up. So I was going to say, what would you say the top 3 takeaways are from introducing sprint training for long distance runners?
Yeah. Okay. I think the first one that I would recommend there is put in some work on your running drills. Now, running drills, there's lots of them out there, Steve, and long distance runners don't like them because when they do them, it's usually in the presence of sprinters. Now, sprinters do running drills every time, and then they look cute in them. They look pretty in them. And sometimes this puts off long distance runners doing running drills. They rather just go away and just go for the run because they don't like to look silly, because they're not executing their movements right. Now, speed is a skill. It can be learned. Anyone can learn the skill. And equally true about speed. It can be learned, it can be acquired, and it can get better. Just learn the accuracy and the precision of those movements. And it's not every drill that is going on at the track that is relevant.
Yeah.
No, it isn't. Drills are very personal. If, for instance, you've got enough ankle stability and range of motion in your ankle joint, you don't need to do certain drills that are meant at, repairing that. If you, for instance, you got a very active hamstring and your leg is able to move forward quickly within the transition phase, then you don't need to be doing all those back ham kicks or back flicks, as they are sometimes wrongly called. Sometimes you don't need to do the high knees because you've got hyperactive hip flexors already anyway. So it's very personal what drills one athlete requires. It's based on intervening whatever is a shortfall within your running cycle. That's the drill that is important to take on board. So look out for drills that are relevant to your running cycle, your running gait. Those are the ones that you should incorporate within the drill session and repeat them.
Excellent. So if you're a long distance runner and you are looking to increase your performance with long distance running, Stan's looking for another 8 people to come along to a special once in a lifetime opportunity of a sprint training session to help you know exactly what to do to introduce sprint training into your long distance running, to make sure that you guys can get the same results that Stan's athletes are getting on a regular basis when they're doing the right thing on the track. So Stan, what else is going to happen in this sprint training session? What else can we show people?
Yes, what would happen there is after learning the drills, then it's deciding how to transfer that into your specific race or into your specific distance. How do I incorporate this particular drill in my 10K or in my 5K? Or is it, if I'm a marathon runner, how do I adapt a specific drill to come in and meet, for instance, my cadence for half a marathon or the cadence for a marathon? Because all those things impact on that. So it's not just a drill, but it's learning how to adapt it and incorporate it to meet the specific profile for your running movement task.
Brilliant, brilliant. So that's in a nutshell, that's what's going to be happening in this special session that Stan's going to be running. But we're just looking for another 8 people now to come along to that session to take part in it with Stan, and the other people that are already going to take part in it as well. But Stan, they're going to get a recording that they can go away with, aren't they? So they'll be able to watch it back after the session as well to remember and revise some of the stuff that they've gone, because we don't want to just see you and have a great session and then you forget the stuff. We really want to educate you so that you can get the best results with your running, and you can take them away and use it as you will. And hopefully that will lead you to being able to run better, faster, and for longer with your long distance running as well, without injuries. You don't end up to see me. It's not a good idea.
Absolutely. The body
look after you.
Yeah, the body learns quick, because when it is able to visualize, it's able to see itself.
Yeah.
When we are able to see ourselves, the body has got its own biofeedback mechanisms. And so that's why it will be critical for you to get your own video and see it and be able to watch it, so that you are able then from that to be able to use the biofeedback system to improve upon that running, on those running tasks.
Brilliant. Brilliant. So there'll be some practical elements of it, won't there? So they'll need their running shoes, but there'll also be some like classroom-based elements to show you the actual principles behind some of the training that you need to be doing to be able to improve your running efficiency. So yeah, very exciting opportunity if those of you out there. And we're just looking for another 8 people who'd love to come along to that session. So if you've got some friends that would love to come along as well, we'd love to have them along as well. It's completely free. It's going to be an hour-long session, and Stan will guide you through step-by-step with regards to what's needed to implement a proper sprint training into your long-distance running training to make sure that you get the best results possible. So we will organize that for you guys as a gesture of goodwill to help you guys get through the coronavirus epidemic as safely and as funnily as possible, if that's possible.
Yeah.
keep your spirits up. I think that's an important thing if you're a runner. So Stan, what would you say the top 3 tips are that we're going to leave people with before we close down for tonight?
Well, I've already spoken about 2 of them. I think the last one there would be, having done all the drill, I've done the transfer of the drill into your specific event. The next one is also decide what dosage of speed is relevant for your particular distance. You've got speed endurance, you've got long speed endurance, you've got short speed endurance. So it will be about deciding what shade of speed is relevant for your specific distance. So that is that will be the 3rd point. That's the one that you want to be focusing on, and they are different with each different distance.
Brilliant, exciting, good. I might actually come along to that session myself as well, Stan. It's going to be good for my tennis, that.
Yeah, it will be.
Excellent, good stuff, good, excellent. Well, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure for you to speak to you guys tonight, and hopefully you've enjoyed hearing from Stan the man and myself over at Perfect Balance Clinic. But if you'd love to hear more about ways of improving your body to reduce injury, increase efficiency, and enjoy your sport and exercise much more, we'd love to hear back from you. We've got a fountain of knowledge. It's not just myself. We've also got Stan. We've got multiple people like Stan in our business that can help you achieve what you want to achieve with your sports and exercise, and hopefully prevent injury rather than dealing with it. It's always better to try and prevent rather than cure injury if possible, because it's not much fun curing the injury, but it's hugely rewarding seeing you guys do so well with your PBs and be able to run more economically. So that's important to us. But Stan, it's been great talking to you as always.
Same here, Steve, as always.
It's been good.
Cheers, man.
And we will look forward to seeing you guys soon. But bye for now. Take care, guys.
Bye.